everybody, I'm Pia from Stitches and Scraps. Today I'm going to show you how to knit this first section of the Mosaic Sampler Blanket Mystery Knit Along. This first section is Stairsteps. I'll be referring to this chart throughout the tutorial. If you're new to reading knitting charts, you may want to take a look at my separate tutorial on how to read mosaic knitting charts. I actually use this same chart in that tutorial, and I'll have a link to that in the description on this video. I'll be using Lion Brand Basic Stitch Anti-Pilling Yarn, which Lion Brand did give me for free for this design. For this section, I'm using these two colors, and this rust color is going to be my color A, the dark color, and this gray color is going to be my color B, the light color. For my sample for the tutorial, I'm not making a full-size blanket. I'm going to work 2 repeats, and each of these repeats is 12 stitches, so that's 24 stitches, plus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'm going to cast on 29 stitches. We're using a cable cast on, so go ahead and put a loop on your needle, whether that's a slip knot or just a loop. I like to use just a loop because I find slip knots leave a bump that I don't like. Now knit 1 stitch and twist this needle around and put that stitch onto your needle. And the twisting part just keeps it aligned properly so it's not twisted later. Now to make this a cable cast on, instead of knitting the stitch like normal, we're going to insert our needle between the 2 stitches completely and then knit into that space between the 2 stitches. Do you see that? Twist it around and put it on the needle. Now I do have a full tutorial for the cabled cast on, which I will also link in the description of this video. I have 29 stitches cast on. The cable cast on gives it this nice ropey edge, and I'm ready to knit my first row. Well, the first row is all black boxes. So this is the right side row, and every stitch is a black box. Well, the black box says to knit with color A. This is my color A, so I'm just going to knit every stitch. Okay, I've finished row 1. I've knit all the way across here. Now it's time to do row 2. Well, guess what? Row 2 goes this way, but it's that same row, right? It's just knitting every stitch with color A. So I'm going to do row 2 to knit all the way back, and that gives me the first 2 garter stitch rows here that make this nice pretty edge. Okay, rows 1 and 2 are done. That was easy, right? Now for row 3, we're going to start adding in the second color. The lighter color is the first stitch of the row, and that tells me that all of the stitches are going to be knit in that lighter color. And if you look, the white box says knit with color B, right? And these boxes with the V's in them mean slip. So every stitch here is either knit with color B or slipped. So that means color B is the color I'm going to be using for this row. I've grabbed my color B, and the first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stitches of the row are going to be knit with color B. So I start out like I'm going to knit, right? And I put the yarn onto my hook, put a little loop of the yarn on my hook. I've left a tail. So I'm just joining color B just like that. Now I'm going to knit again, and to secure this tail and make it a little less floppy, I'm going to bring the tail up over my needle before I knit, and that way I can kind of tuck it in there as I knit, and that will secure it and make the stitch less floppy. So that's 2 stitches. Here's 3, 4, and 5. Okay, the next stitch says to slip, but be careful because it depends whether you're on the right side or the wrong side, right? On the right side, which we're on, all of these are our right side rows. So on the right side, we slip with the yarn in back. And that's just to put our float at the back of the work, at the wrong side of the work. So you're always going to slip purlwise. When it's not specified in a knitting pattern, you should always slip purlwise. So slip purlwise with your yarn at the back, okay? And then we're going to go ahead and knit 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more stitches. So knit 5. And you can see that little tiny float is just right there at the back behind our work where it's not going to be seen on the front. Now again, we're going to slip with the yarn at the back. So slip purlwise with the yarn at the back. And then you may be tempted to read this as knit the next 5, right? But watch out for where your repeats are, because here we knit the next 2 and then we come over here and knit the next 3. And yes, that doesn't matter on this row, but it might matter on another row. So knit 2, and that finishes our current repeat. Yes, 1, 2. Okay, now we're going to start over with our repeat here and knit 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, and slip. Then 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and slip. And now we're down to our last 5 stitches, and on our last 5 stitches we're going to knit all 5 of them. Okay, and that brings us to the end of row 3. Now our brown yarn is way over here, so we know that on row 4 we have to stick with the gray yarn because we can't pick up our brown yarn from over here. So for row 4, we're coming back the same way. Here's the trick with the wrong side rows. You're always going to knit the knit stitches, and you're always going to slip the slipped stitches. So any stitch here on this previous row that has been knit is going to be gray, right? And any stitch that has been slipped is going to be brown. So you don't even have to look at the pattern. You can just knit the gray stitches and slip the brown stitches. So knit these gray stitches. Okay, there's a brown stitch. Now remember, I'm on the wrong side, and when we're on the wrong side, we slip with the yarn in front, because here's that little tail from the last time, that little float. I want this float to be on the same side. So I bring the yarn to the front, slip that stitch still purlwise, and then bring the yarn to the back again so that I can knit. And then I knit these stitches, and now you can see that both of those floats are on the wrong side of your work. So knit all the gray stitches. I'm not even paying attention to the pattern. I'm just knitting along as long as they're gray. Oops, there's a brown one. Bring the yarn in front, slip it, bring the yarn behind, and keep knitting. And we keep doing that to the end of the row. Okay, that is rows 3 and 4, and you can see that the brown yarn has gotten carried up in spots, right? Because where we slipped it. Now for the next row, we're going to be picking up, for row 5, we're going to be picking up the brown yarn again. When you pick up the yarn, what I like to do to create a nice even edge is put both yarns at the back and pick up the new yarn, the one you're going to work, from underneath the current yarn. Okay, and if you always pick it up the same way, you'll get this nice, neat, rope-like edge that's kind of tucked behind the work and makes your edge look really nice and clean. So we pick it up this way, and we're going to knit 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 stitches before we have to slip one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now notice what's happening is I'm ending that 6th stitch, that last bit of my brown section, on that brown stitch that I carried up. That's actually a pattern that we're going to be doing all the way through. So when you get the hang of it, you won't need to actually look at the pattern anymore. Here, you see how the end of this bar is right on the stitch that we picked up? With every single row, the end of this colored bar is right on the stitch that was picked up, that was slipped before. So that might help you kind of feel your way through the pattern rather than reading it as you get going. Okay, so I've knit these 6. Now I'm going to slip one. Now these 2 squares are different, right? This one is black and this one is white. Both of them mean the same thing as far as the action you're taking. The reason for the difference is it shows you what color stitch you're going to be slipping. When we slipped before, we were slipping brown stitches, so that's why it was a black square. Now we're going to be slipping gray stitches, so it's the white square. So again, we just slip with the yarn at the back and then go on and knit, let's see, 5 more stitches. 1, 2, 3, and we know the last one should be a brown stitch, right? Because the last one is that slipped brown stitch. So that'll help keep you on track. And then we slip 1 stitch. And now again, we're going to start our repeat over. So knit 1 to get to the end of the repeat, and then start back over here with 1, 2, 3, 4 more knits. So we're going to knit 5. And again, we're ending with the brown stitch. And slip 1. Knit 5. Ending with the brown stitch. So you can just knit till you see the brown stitch and then you know that you've done it, right? Slip 1, and that's here. So now we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 more. We've got 4 more. We're in the right spot, and we just knit the last 4. And then on the way back, we're going to knit the knit stitches and slip the slipped stitches. So you don't even have to look at the pattern. You just knit the knit stitches. And slip the slipped stitches, but remember to bring your yarn in front when you do it. Okay, now we're starting to see our stair step pattern form. You can see where it goes up and across, and then it's going to go up again there, right? So the same pattern is going to hold true here. We're going to knit across with gray until we hit the last stitch being on this slipped gray stitch, and then we slip one of the brown stitches. And that's, if you look here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 knit stitches, and then slip the brown stitch. And that's the pattern throughout. What changes with every row is how many stitches you start with, because the pattern shifts as it moves along. Other than that, it's always like in the middle here, it's always knit 5, slip 1, knit 5, slip 1. So really once you get started, once you get to that first slip stitch, the rest of it is sort of mindless by the time you get used to it. So remember, when we're picking up the gray yarn, we're going to bring both to the back. We're going to pick the gray yarn up from the bottom, and we are knitting, I counted 7 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 6, and the 7th stitch is a gray stitch. And then we slip the 1 brown stitch and knit 5, right? So we knit these 7, now we knit 5. And it's always knit 5, slip 1 all the way across. And after my last slip, I have 3 stitches left to knit. I have 3 stitches left to knit. And then going back again, we're going to knit the knits and slip the slips. Okay, we finished rows 7 and 8, and now we're on to row 9. So again, pick up the darker colored yarn from underneath the lighter color, and you can start to see how they're twisting over each other at the end here. Now for row 9, we're going to just knit 2 and then add another slip stitch in, because we're starting a new branch of the stairs. This pattern has 2 stitches that are just always alternating, and then the actual pattern repeat itself starts from here. So we have those 2 edge stitches. And now we're starting our pattern repeat with a slip stitch. So it's slip, and then it's going to be knit 5, then it's slip, and then it's knit 5. Now our last 3 stitches are a slip and knit 2. And then for row 10, we go back again, knitting the knits and slipping the slips. Okay, that was rows 9 and 10. Now we go to row 11, which is a lighter colored row. So we pick up the lighter colored yarn from underneath the darker colored yarn. And we go ahead and knit 3. and slip 1. Now we repeat the knit 5, slip 1 again, and then there's 1, 2, 3, 4 here and 1 here. So again, it'll be knit 5, slip 1 all the way across. Okay, I'm going to purposely make a mistake here to show you how to fix it later. If I had slipped this with the yarn in front by mistake, okay, I'm on the right side row, my yarn should be behind, but suppose I slipped it with the yarn in front, okay? Uh-oh, I've put that little line there. If I don't notice it till the next row, I'm going to show you how to go ahead and fix it. So I've slipped 1, and now I'm going to knit 4 more for the repeat and then 3 more for the end, so 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Now I'm going to come back, and on the wrong side again, it is knit the knits and slip the slips, but I'm going to fix that one mistake when I get to it. And this is something good to look for when you're on the wrong side. When you come to those slip stitches, make sure that you see that float on the wrong side where it's supposed to be. So here I've come to this slip stitch, and I'm going to bring the yarn forward to slip it, but I don't see the float on this side, right? The float is on the wrong side. So all I'm going to do is gently pick up this float, put it on my needle, okay, and kind of trade places between the float and the stitch. And there we go. Now the float is on the correct side. The tension is a little bit off, so you don't want to purposely make the mistake, but if you do make the mistake, it's fixable. Let me show you that again. And this works on the other side too. If the float is not where it's supposed to be, you can pick it up and drag it over the stitch and then drop it, okay? And now it's where it's supposed to be. So now we slip the slip, and we continue knitting the knits. Okay, that was rows 11 and 12, and now you're really starting to see the stair step pattern forming, right? I'm using bigger needles so that it shows more clearly on the video. So it's not quite as tight as this stair step pattern, but you can still see the design forming. So now let's move on to this last row of the chart, which is row 13. And again, we're going to pick up our new color, not from behind, but make sure both are at the back and then pick this up in front, underneath this yarn, okay? And knit 4, right? Knit 4 up here. 2, 3, 4, and slip 1. Knit 5, and slip 1. Now knit 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and slip 1, and knit 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and slip 1, and then knit 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then the reverse is the same as always. We knit the knits and slip the slips. And that brings us to the end of the chart. And you can see what a good visual representation the chart is. Because look at these 4 stitches, okay? Here they are. And then it goes down and across and down and across and down and then hits the border. And you can see each of these shapes in your pattern here, right? Isn't that neat? I love how charts are so visual. They match exactly what you're doing so you can easily see if you've made a mistake or where you've gone wrong. Now, I finished row 13. Obviously, we want it thicker than that, right? We want a good 5 inches here for the baby size and taller for the other sizes. So what we're going to do is we're going to start over at row 3 and repeat all of these rows from 3 to 13. You don't want to start over with this, 3 to 14, because we did do row 14 on the way back here. So you don't want to start over with 1 because that was just our border, right? So you're going to start where the pattern starts with row 3, and you work row 3 all the way up through row 14 and then back to row 3 again. And that is the stair step pattern. If you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up, share it with your friends, or leave me a comment. You can also subscribe to my YouTube channel for more great videos. Thanks for watching.